This particular lot, the way that they've landscaped around their house, could be a suburban lot anywhere in the country, basically. It's mown grass with a few trees here and there, a big tree near the house for, you know, grandeur and shade, and the suburban aesthetic is one that it's a neat aesthetic. They want the landscape to be neat and tidy, and so of course you mow all the way down to the edge of the stream so that there's not all these sort of weedy or brush, like brush shrubs all over the place, and you want to be able to easily get down to the stream to sit by it and enjoy the beautiful water going past. Except that you only can do that really when the water is in low flow, and when it gets into high flow, what you've done puts you at risk.
He already was on board to do something about this erosion, and the opportunity came that the river went to the other side in Irene, and of course, seeing all the flooding, he was already motivated.
It's just as easy for the water to go sideways on a flat surface as it is to go down valley. So it's much more likely that the river can change course when you have a big, broad, flat valley, and when the slope downstream is not very different from the slope sideways. So those kind of forested floodplains tend to have multiple channels where during a big flood, another channel has been created over here, and they kind of wind through the forest. But the roots of the forest hold the floodplain together pretty well, and so it's less likely to shift. But when it does, it creates a whole new pattern. So this is an example of that. We had a woody debris, a large wood accumulation in that main channel over there. It backed up water enough so that this whole area started flooding, and then a new channel was formed through this area here, and that put this house these two houses at greater risk. So the wood accumulation eventually floated away in a bigger storm, and that allowed this project to be able to be constructed.
Our reasoning is we tried to use natural materials that were the strongest as possible to recreate a setting where there was vegetation with leaves, potentially shade if the water's coming right up to the bank again. That's good for habitat and temperatures. And just something that wouldn't, they are not going to mow, and it's going to be resilient. So these are native willows. And I can show you, as we go down here, we can show you how we actually constructed the bank out of they're basically like, we call them coir blocks. So they're made out of coconut fiber that biodegrades. And we stack them to make a graduated bank going back, filled with soil and gravel, just like you would find in the stream, which is what the willows like to live in. And the other reason we chose willows is because they like the sun. So a lot of the forest plant, trees that you see there, they're not going to necessarily come in as quickly as a willow, which will, favor these conditions that are right on this hot bank that hasn't had anything growing here but grass. But right here is the beginning of our structure. This is all very good that it's growing, but you see there's a little stake here. This is an oak stake. And this is our first layer of placed material called coir block. It's 10 feet long, and it's the beginning of our constructed bank. And we construct the bank with the blocks, the soil, and the plants, which when we put them in, were just little whips. And now, this is 4 years later, they're like tree size, and they create a lot of resistance to me and to the water. This was all done by hand on the ground with a machine to carry the soil to the spot where we needed it. But it was about 5 people working for about 2 weeks. Heavy manual labor to install with the supplier of the soil coming in and dropping it exactly where we needed it. 2 layers there, and it keeps, as it got steeper, we just kept doing more layers. So that's at least 2 stacked.
And
Look at this
and there's
tree
yeah,
there.
that's a willow. And the layer, there's a layer underneath it, and a layer in between those two, and a layer on top. Not much on top
So
here.
it's kind of like making a cake with the blocks, the soil, the willows, another block, more soil, more willows.
Promote the use of hybrid willows, or used to promote the use of hybrid willows for this purpose, because they were disease tolerant or disease resistant and drought tolerant to some extent, and they were they grew very, very fast, and that was the main thing, was that they grew fast and they provided protection quickly. But we didn't, when we started this program, we knew that we were going to put a lot of material into these projects all throughout the Catskills, and we didn't want to bring in non-native species into that effort. We thought it could disturb the community structure, and so we started looking for locations where we could harvest willow cuttings to do this work from native locations, or for native species and occurrences. So there, I think, are 2 different species mixed into here, and we try to not create just a single monoculture of a particular species, because that way, if one dies or gets disease, it may not hit the other one quite as hard. So, and they have different forms. So there are some that are more bushy, and some that are more tree-like. So they do different things. They have their roots behave differently.